Grab your glasses, everybody. It's time for a Moonshine Safari.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to episode 3 of Moonshine Safari. I'm Josh.
I'm Dina.
And we want to welcome you back. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you're enjoying our experiment, if you want to call it that.
Our learning curve.
Learning curve, something, whatever it is. Our podcast. Hope you're enjoying what we're kind of throwing out there. And please be patient with us as we're growing and learning.
It's
and
very much a learning curve.
Things will evolve. Things will change. Hopefully I won't say and so much. I'd be more conscious of that. But you don't really realize how much you're doing it until you listen to yourself.
Until you're listening to it, right?
And then you're like, oh my goodness, I sound so disjointed.
See, I don't think so. I think you sound better than me. I'm the one that I feel less comfortable.
Yeah, well, I've done this before, talking in front of folks.
Exactly.
Even though I'm not standing live in front of you all, the idea in your mind is that you do have an audience that you're speaking to.
Right.
And you want to...
And you want to seem somewhat natural, right. and that's where I think I fall short.
Like you're having a conversation. No, you're doing fine. But anyway, we do want to thank you so much, and we will... There, I went again. Did you hear that? Okay. What we'd like to do with this part 2, in the beginning, this kind of intro part eventually, is also have a time where we can, kind of like a mailbag or a shout out time. We're currently recording these podcasts in advance for obvious reasons. So unbeknownst to you, we're doing this before we have even launched the podcasts. So we're shooting ahead. So eventually, we're going to incorporate your comments and suggestions into the show as well. Exactly. That's our point. So, all right. Well, let's get that out of the way. And since we have really no set format, we have things we want to get to, like our music, what we're listening to. We all have a little funny in our story of our marriage tips and pro tips and stuff like that. I think, what do you think? Dina, where do you want to go with this today? Any ideas?
Well, so the first time we started with the story, True. And the last time we ended with the story.
Okay. So do the story in the middle?
Well, no, I think I prefer it right now at the end. Doesn't mean we won't.
Well, we'll do the Moonshine Safari at the end because we always do that for the drink and stuff. At the end?
Okay, right. But then the story then was right before that. So yeah. I think I kind of prefer that at this point.
We'll do it that way. That sounds good. Okay, so we'll be right back right after this.
It's time for Peeve of the Week.
This next part of our podcast is going to be our Peeve of the Week, and I'm going to turn this over to Dina. This is her specialty. So Dina, what's the Peeve of the Week?
My Peeve of the Week seems to always... or very often anyway, involve driving or some related task. And I have a problem with the fact that there are many, many, many people out there who do not seem to be able to park their cars within the lines that they're given. I'm not really sure why this is. The lines always seem to be wide enough to me, but often we're trying to pull into a space and someone's in half of our space, and so you can't take that space anymore. There are countless memes and tweets out there of people leaving notes or surrounding someone's car in carts, and there's just all kinds of jokes about it, and I actually love them. We don't leave notes on cars, but I have been known to tweet out a picture of a car who's parked in 2 spaces.
Yes, you have.
So my peeve of the week, like I said, is people who can't park. I don't understand. If you can't, go to a parking lot that's empty one night and practice it until you can. Or at least pay attention when you're doing it, because I don't really understand the problem.
Right. Now, I know some people will say, well, parking lots, their parking spaces are a lot smaller than they used to be, so they can get more cars in the lot before they make more money, so it's a lot harder to park in those. But I would say also the cars are much smaller than they used to be, so you really shouldn't have any problem. And I drive a Yukon XL Denali. So it's like a big Suburban, right? I don't have any problems parking.
And I think if you're driving a vehicle that you can't park, don't drive it.
Right.
Then you need to get a small car.
Exactly. Also, especially if you're parking around handicap zones, especially one that's a loading zone for someone who is using either a wheelchair or some
ramp
type of
or something.
Ramp,
correct.
You need to really understand that people need that space to get in and out of their vehicles with their either wheelchairs or their scooters or mobility scooters or whatever they have. So please have a little consideration, especially when you're parking around the handicap spots. At no time should you ever, even if you're going in for just a second, should you ever use those spots. I don't care if there's 47 in the front and there's only 3 people that need them inside. You don't need to be there. That's not for you. Okay? So please honor that. That would be my peeve. My peeve would be parking in a spot that you don't need to park in, as far as the handicap spots.
And if somebody else in your family does need the handicap spot, but they're not with you, don't use their placard.
This could probably actually be a separate peeve, right? But right. Well, we have a disabled placard, but I don't need it. But all the cars that we drive have one. But when I'm by myself, even though it would be very convenient to do, to pull into the front.
Correct.
That's not right. And you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't take advantage of that because someone who really needs it
might not be able to use that space.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for your peeve of the week. Stay tuned next week. Not sure what that one will be, but it might have to do with parking or cars or driving or something like that, right?
Easily.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back with the next section of the pro tip of the week. Stay tuned.
Get out your notepads. It's time for pro tip of the week.
And Dina is going to explain to you the importance of establishing credit for your kids. Dina, take it away.
I have several, I can't even count them, how many kids I've had come to me to start potentially looking at a mortgage, and they've either never established any credit, and so they don't have anything in their name, or they've not done it well because no one's guided them. And I think it's really important as your kids get closer to the age of 18. This is often the time of year when kids are graduating and things like that. So it's important that you start them down the right path with their credit. Credit is a double-edged sword, and this is what I tell people. It's bad if you overuse it, but it's also bad if you don't use it. You have to use it, but you have to use it wisely. So it's important that you start your kids off with their own credit card in their name, and it starts credit for them. Now, often you can add them as an authorized user onto, say, one credit card of yours, and that's a good way to get it started. But at some point, they need it in their name because it's not looked at quite the same when they're authorized users. So it's important that they do have something in their name. It's also important that as parents, we guide them a little bit and teach them how to handle that credit so that they don't overuse it, get themselves into trouble, and actually start hurting themselves for the long term. It's something that I have seen kids all the way from, in their early 20s have almost 800 scores and beautiful credit to people with scores in the 400s because no one ever taught them how to do anything, and they are not paying their bills, or there's a lot of collections, or whatever it happens to be. So if you need some help, talk to somebody in the credit business, mortgages, or there are credit repair companies that you could also check into, but there's a lot of common sense stuff online that you can find. There's places like NerdWallet and stuff like that you can get a lot of information. It's really important that we help our kids master this skill that they need to have that's going to help them through their adult life. It deals with their auto insurance rates. It's everything that you can imagine is affected by credit, so it's important that they learn how to handle it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that tip. Hopefully you guys will, those of you who have kids, and especially the age that's, maybe they're getting close to 18 and starting to be able to enter into contracts and things like that, especially with credit cards, they're going to start getting those, especially if they go into college or they start making applications to college. That's a great way to do it. But also to keep in mind to monitor them and to guide them as they use their credit card so they use them wisely. All right, that's the big thing, so they don't end up misusing them and
in trouble.
And in trouble later down the road. Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Dana. We appreciate that. And off to our next section. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody. We just finished up our pro tip of the week, and now we are going to talk about what are we listening to for this week. Dina, what are you listening to?
Well, as I told you before, we tend to handle both sides of the past and present. So I'm the past person. I've been listening to the soundtrack from the 2011 version of Footloose because there are some newer versions of some of the older songs, and they've included some of the older songs. So I feel like you get all the way from 80s all the way up to current with that particular soundtrack. And there's some interesting blues versions of songs on there. Zach Brown Band is on there. Blake Shelton's version of Footloose, which I really like, the country version of it. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of good music on that soundtrack, and it's something I've been listening to this week.
I have to admit, I like it too. At first, I wasn't that fond necessarily of the movie, but I think they did it, I guess I could say, they did it enough the same as the original, but also different that it kind of stands on its own in some ways, if that makes sense.
I agree. I personally liked it. I know a lot of people panned it. I liked it. I don't think that they necessarily need to remake everything that they made in the 80s like they're kind of doing, but I did like that one, and I think there's a place for both of those movies.
All right. Excellent. Well, I am listening to a group, and the name is Larkin Poe, Larkin, and Poe, Poe. This is there are two sisters out of Atlanta, Georgia. I believe they're actually from Nashville now, or at least they're staying from Nashville. Two sisters, Rebecca and Megan Lavelle. I think that's how you say it. If I'm mispronouncing it, I'm sorry. But I found them through Norman's Rare Guitars YouTube channel. And then it came up as a suggestion, and I started listening to their or watching some of their YouTube channels where they do some covers. One of the sisters plays slide guitar, amazing, and the other sister plays electric or acoustic, mandolin. They're both amazing in their talent as far as their instruments, and their singing and harmonies. Very bluesy. They do a lot of blues covers, old blues covers, new covers. They have their own album out called Peach. Check them out. I think they're amazing. And as Dina can attest, and this is not a sexist thing, I don't hardly listen to a lot of female artists for whatever reason.
Well, again, it's something similar to you like when you spoke about Blackberry Smoke. It's very clean, pure about their voices. It's not very synthesized. There's not a lot of electronic stuff all on top of it. They are just who they are, and they have a lot of talent.
They are good. I mean, they just really are. And so check them out. Check out their YouTube. You can check out their albums, pick up their album, check out their website. It's Larkin Poe. The reason they chose that name is kind of interesting, and you can check this out, is they are related to Edgar Allan Poe. Their great-great-great-grandfather, I think, was named Larkin Poe. And they're related to the poet Edgar Allan Poe. And actually, Edgar Allan Poe was one of my favorite poets as well. Short story authors. I really enjoyed that. So, Larkin Poe, check them out. All right. Next up, the funny of the week, just for you. We'll be right back.
Hey, Josh, shall we try a different position tonight?
Excellent idea.
All right. You stand at the sink and wash the dishes, and I'll be on the couch and watch TV.
Shh! Quiet and listen. It's time for Marriage Story of the Week.
I hope you enjoyed that little funny. I thought it was funny.
It was funny, except for, like I said, it's really backwards because you're the one that normally handles the kitchen, to be fair.
That's okay. But it's funny. That's just a typical, traditional...
stereotype roles.
Yeah, stereotypical role. We're not a stereotypical family or a traditional family myself. I like to cook, and I'm in the kitchen.
And I hate it.
So that's what we do. That's how we get it. And that's part of what makes us click, And as you learn more about us and we tell our story, you'll see how it's evolved. I wasn't always in the kitchen. I wasn't always cooking. I wasn't always doing this, and she wasn't always doing what she's doing now. So we've kind of changed and evolved over time. And as you stick with us, you'll learn, and hopefully you'll pick up and not make the same mistakes we made and learn from our mistakes. Maybe.
Right.
But so last time we picked up, we had just broken up for the first time, I believe.
Correct.
Isn't that where we were?
Yes, we had just broken up, and basically you were kind of angry because you felt like I was not
That's right.
upset.
Right, exactly. Because as we talked about before, as insecure, had never really had a real girlfriend, never broken up with anybody. I knew how I was feeling, even though it was my idea to break up. I thought she should be more upset. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, it's obvious I wasn't logical in my brain because...
Well, I mean, I don't know. We were teenagers. I don't know. Was either one of us logical?
No,
probably
obviously not.
Right,
Obviously
so.
not. Obviously not. So let's see. After that, honestly, I don't know how long we stayed broken up. Do you?
If I remember correctly,
You remember all the breakup times way better than me.
Kind of. I used to have it really to where I had it in my mind. It was like a storyboard, and I had it figured out. It's kind of just over time dissolved some of it, and I just don't remember all of it. I think it was if I had to guess, it was probably about 4.5 months that we were quote unquote not a couple.
Okay. I don't remember that. I'm going to take your word for it because I don't remember. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you how many times we broke up.
I can't tell you anymore for sure. Like I said, I used to have it down
It was a
pat.
handful. It wasn't like
It wasn't
100.
like every other day.
No.
It was more like we would be solid for 6, 7, whatever months, and then we would break up for a few months, and then but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And this went on for about...
Well, if we started dating
4 years.
when I was about 15, yeah, it went on for about 4 years off and on. That and then there were times in there that we would say, we're not going to be dating right now. We're just going to be friends, which
right.
we were always more than that when we were talking. So, we just didn't label it that way.
Exactly. And we did see other people in between those times. I can speak for myself and say that I didn't make the best of choices in those people.
Neither one of us did, but it was no one that either one of us, I think, was ever as serious about as we were when we were with each other.
Right, because all of those people were not our types, as you would say. So the people I dated weren't anything like you. And
right.
I would say the people that you dated weren't anything like me.
Not like you, right.
So I don't know if it was just...
Well, speaking from just my perspective, I just know that looking back, even once you and I had really started to date seriously, my mind was that's where it was going to be. Mm-hmm. And I kept coming back to it. And even when we would break up, I think in my mind, I thought, we're going to work it out eventually. I really believed that.
Well, I can't say that I necessarily believe it because, me being a guy and now thinking that deep, I can't really say that that's what I was thinking. Up until I would say the last time.
Okay, see, the last time we broke up was actually the only time I ever thought we might not work it out.
Yeah. Well, we did, and I'm so glad that we did.
Obviously, yes.
I don't know. How deep do you want to, how detailed do you want to get into any of this?
Well, I mean, none of it's a secret. We pretty much have, everybody that knows us knows the story. But I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just the typical, I'm not going to hang it on anyone that we knew at the time. I'm not going to say, oh, well, that person was bad and that made me mad. And I'm not going to name anybody's names. It's just ridiculous.
Well, we could just say it generally. We were both broke up for a period of time. We were both dating some people. Because of my insecurities and latching on to people and making more into things than they really were, I got involved with someone and proposed to them and thought that was going to be it. That didn't work out for me. You kind of had the same similar situation.
I had
similar.
Proposal
it's redundant.
given to me that I never accepted. But it was somebody that definitely was pursuing hard. And so, but that didn't work out either.
And
obviously.
To be fair, that's part of the reason I heard about that and got him, and that, well,
motivated
that's
you a
motivated.
little bit.
Yeah, right. That's what ticked it. Basically, that woke me up. That was a slap in the face. And that's when I decided, you got to stop being stupid and go get what you want. And that's what I did.
Yep. And then basically, once we got through all the juvenile stuff and we decided.
Well, not all the juvenile stuff, just that juvenile
stuff. But the
stuff.
breaking up part of
right.
it. Because once we got through that and we were back together for the last time, which is probably when I was about to turn 19, something like that, maybe. That's when we didn't break up anymore after that.
Yeah. Right. So when we got back together, and this is where the timeline I mean, I know the day. I know exactly because it made it easy that way, so I wouldn't forget. I don't remember how long we had been back together before I proposed to you.
Okay, well, here's what I would say. I would say it was probably about 6 months, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure that we got back together during the summer.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the proposal was given in November.
In November.
So I think it was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 4, 5, 6 months, something like that.
Okay.
That we were back together.
Yep.
Like I said, I used to have it down pat. I don't have it down pat anymore.
But it didn't have to be a long, drawn out engagement because we already knew each other.
At that point, we had known each other for almost, 7 years almost? 6 years? I mean, we'd known each other for quite some time.
But that was in November of 92.
92.
And I had graduated from college that summer, and I was working. And then we got, yeah. Well, you know what? Let's stop there.
That's probably
if you
a
want
good
to
place.
stop, and then we'll next time we'll talk about the proposal.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Okay, sounds
Is
good.
that good? I know that maybe seems like a little short one, but we're gonna give you a little short one this week, and then.
Well, yeah, and it's not like we're trying to talk about all the silly teenage stuff because really that's not important necessarily.
No, because we're not here to counsel. We're not really here to counsel per se, but if you could take some wisdom from what we do, it's not really about dating, though. Some marriages don't actually
get past the dating stage.
Past that,
correct.
Unfortunately, we've seen some of that in our experiences. So, okay, well, let's stop there. And coming up is our Moonshine Safari segment of the week. Stay tuned.
Awesome.
Pull out your mason jars for Moonshine Safari drinks and recipes.
Back, everybody. The next segment is our Moonshine Safari. And for those of you who are just listening, this segment kind of encapsulates part of the reason we're doing this. Moonshine Safari, if you go back to listen to the first podcast and how it all started, was we tried this moonshine that we really liked. And
decided we really liked it.
We really, really liked it. And we didn't have any more. And we wanted to find some in the place that we normally did. I didn't have any, so we went out looking for some and called it Moonshine Safari.
Wrote a song,
which you've heard. If you haven't, you can go to our website and check it out for sure. All right, so this week's moonshine is from Appalachian Distillery in Ripley, West Virginia. And the flavor is the pawpaw.
Pawpaw.
Gina, do you know what a pawpaw is?
It's a fruit.
It is a fruit. It's like the fruit that Baloo is singing about in the Bare Necessities.
Bare Necessities, that's right.
He talks about a pawpaw. All right. So the pawpaw, it's like kind of like a papaya, kind of like it's a banana flavor. It's okay. So you didn't really care for it.
I didn't care for it myself.
Right.
It was a little strong for me.
Strong. See, which is interesting because, and we tried some. Not necessarily with moonshine, but we had tried some flavors this ranch soda.
Oh, dear Lord.
Right? And that sounds really gross to everybody.
And it was really gross.
Well, it wasn't gross. And
but yes, it was.
So they went to this place and they had a bunch of weird sodas and they brought this back. And I know we're talking about moonshine, but this leads into why. And we tried this ranch soda, and because our daughter hates ranch
with a flaming passion.
And when we get into the story of our children, we'll tell you why she hates that, but not now, because that's important to tell you later.
It is a good
she hates it, and it's our fault. And
we still think it's funny.
We still think it's funny, and our son loves ranch dressing, like
you used to use carrots as a spoon to eat the ranch.
Exactly.
Right.
So, and we'll talk about that too. So Dina got a bottle of ranch soda. So we tried it. They thought it was gross. Actually, Zach, who loves ranch,
thought it was disgusting.
Dina, who loves ranch,
thought it was just disgusting.
Our daughter,
who hates ranch,
thought it was good.
Thought it was fine.
And I like ranch, and I thought it was good. So it just goes to tell you that different tastes
Absolutely.
For everybody. So it's weird because they despised it, and I thought it was fine. And this pawpaw to me has a banana-ish, and I'm not a huge fan of banana, but it's tolerable. Mango-ish, papaya. It's very like mango. Slight. It's a very light flavor, but it's very sweet to me. It's like just a very generic, almost like a simple syrup sweet to me. So, and you didn't like it.
Like I said, to me, it was like a really strong whiskey taste, which is not necessarily my thing.
Yeah. I didn't think it was strong at all. In fact, I thought it was fine and actually prefer to drink this straight as doing shots with no problem. It's 70 proof.
Like I said, for me, there are some kinds that are 70 proof that I don't have a problem with. It's just this particular one seemed really strong tasting to me.
That's funny because I thought it was pretty weak. So what we'd also like to do, those of you who would like to, if you would like to send us some suggestions of some things maybe you've tried that you like and maybe you want us to try and we haven't tried it yet.
It doesn't always have to be moonshine.
No, it doesn't have to be moonshine. In fact, we're going to probably focus on some other things, some beers, some local beers, not any of the stuff that's really out there.
Craft beers.
Some craft beers. There's a Chocolates is my favorite beer at the moment, but we'll talk about that's Prescott Brewing Company. We'll talk about that later, maybe at some other time. But Appalachian Distillery from Ripley, West Virginia. Thank you so much. I liked your pawpaw. I liked it. It's good. It's smooth. It's nice. And unfortunately, Dina didn't care for it too much. But you know what? You can't.
But they have other flavors that we will talk about later that I really do like. So
their bottles are cool.
Their bottles are awesome, which actually always draws me to the different kinds of alcohol.
That's right. We should talk about that because most of the moonshine companies nowadays are just
mason jars, which
I
like.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we've got a bunch of mason jars just hanging out on our counter where they're empty. We've gotten rid of quite a few of them, but
actually starting to make some with our own logos on them.
Yeah. And also playing around with some flavors, too, from infusing some of the plain White Lightning and stuff with some other flavors. But we'll talk about that also another time.
As we go.
Exactly. But if you'd like to make some suggestions, please contact us. You can either hit us on Twitter or hit us on the website or YouTube. Just do hashtag moonshine or whatever, and then you can give us your suggestions on maybe something we could try, something that you like or drink. It could be straight, mixed, however you want it, however you prepare it. We'll give it a shot and maybe feature you on an upcoming episode.
Yeah, and if we use it, we will absolutely credit you.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And if you try it and you like it and we think it tastes like crap, we're going to tell you.
Could happen.
It could happen. All right, but because I'll be honest with you, next podcast, we're going to talk about moonshine that I think is wonderful straight, but I mixed it with some stuff, and it was horrible. It was just disgusting, and I didn't even want to finish drinking it, but I did because I didn't want to go to waste. But we'll talk about that next time. Well, Dina, I think this is a good place to go ahead and end our podcast for the week, and we want to thank everybody for listening. And if you have any comments or questions or anything, or you'd like to reach out to us, please do so at any of our social media outlets that you can reach us: Facebook, and
Twitter, YouTube.
Any place that you can find us, please.
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram. I always forget Instagram. Yep, but we're there too. And if there's something you want to see, or something you like, or something you don't like, put it in there. If we don't like what you say, we're not going to read it, so it doesn't matter. So
that's right.
Right. So jump in and hang on to the next time. We'll see you at Moonshine Safari.
See ya.
Bye.
Yeah! Thank y'all for coming by the Moonshine Safari. May your glasses be full and your hearts happy. Hey y'all, welcome to Moonshine Safari. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, as well as check the description for information on our social media sites, as well as our Patreon account to help support our adventures in the Moonshine Wilderness.